Coming up in today's newscast, new details in the charges against Interior Minister Aryeh Deri are revealed. The Israeli-American teen who orchestrated thousands of bomb threats against JCC'S in the United States is sentenced today, and Black Friday deals make their way to the Holy Land. Additional details have now come out in the two major investigations against Israeli government officials Aryeh Deri and David Keyes. Keyes, who served as Prime Minister Netanyahu's foreign media spokesman, will now be resigning from his post, according to Channel 2 News, following sexual misconduct accusations made in September by at least 10 women. Keyes continues to deny any wrongdoing in the allegations, which go back years before he was appointed, but he still agreed to resign from his media position in return for the Civil Service Commission's closing of the investigation against him. As for Interior Minister Aryeh Deri, the Shas party leader and coalition member was recommended for indictments by police this week on charges of fraud, breach of trust, obstruction of court proceedings, making false statements to the Speaker of the Knesset, money laundering, and tax offenses regarding the withholding of nearly 2 million shekels from tax authorities. The police say their evidence shows criminal actions in land purchases and sales, in dealings with businessman Ilan Sharabi, and even with tampering evidence, among other things. And the allegations span a wide range of time, including both before and after his appointment to the Interior Ministry. In fact, in order to complete investigations into more recent suspicions, police have split the charges into two different investigations, one which is now ongoing. Now, if indicted and found guilty, this would be the second time that Deri will have been convicted of corruption as Interior Minister. Deri first went to prison in 2000 for 22 months after being convicted of taking bribes while serving as Interior Minister in the 1990s. And after his release, it was almost a decade before he returned to politics, where he was then reappointed as Interior Minister by Prime Minister Netanyahu. According to a Palestinian Judicial Council memo posted yesterday, a Palestinian Authority court in the West Bank has just sentenced two Palestinians to 15 years of hard labor for, quote, leaking land to the enemy, aka selling property to Jews. Palestinian law considers selling land or attempting to sell land to an Israeli Jew as treasonous and severely punishable. And possible sentences for this so-called crime vary from years of hard labor all the way to execution. Having said that, though, the law required the PA President Mahmoud Abbas to approve any death sentences personally, which has not been done since 2006. Hassan al-Aruri, Abbas's former legal advisor, explained that, quote, the president does not approve execution sentences, end quote. Regarding this case, though, there are still neither details regarding who the land was sold to, nor how and when, but Palestinian officials and religious leaders both have been heavily against selling land to Israeli Jews, no matter the circumstance. Last April, a PA court handed down the same sentence to another individual suspected of selling lands to Israelis, and the former Grand Mufti of Jerusalem was quoted just last week saying any Palestinian who sells land to a Jew is a, quote, traitor and a perpetrator of a crime that cannot be forgiven, end quote. Speaking of lifting bans, newly elected female Muslim representative in Congress Ilhan Omar is currently pushing with other House Democrats to end the 181-year-old ban on head coverings in the House of Representatives. If lifted, hijabs and kippot may both be allowed in Congress for the first time since 1837. Ilhan Omar is a Somali refugee and earlier this month became one of the first two Muslim women ever elected to the United States Congress. But unlike the other Muslim woman candidate, Michigan's Rashida Tlaib, Omar wears a hijab headscarf. Well, now, among the first actions she's taking, along with her Democratic Party colleagues, is drafting an update to a rule allowing for religious exemptions. The update, of course, is for headwear like the Muslim hijab, Jewish yarmulke, or Sikh turbans. The hat ban, as it's been known, was instated back in 1837 and states that every member shall remain uncovered during the sessions of the House. But Ilhan Omar posted on Twitter that, quote, no one puts a scarf on my head but me. It's my choice, one protected by the First Amendment, end quote. She continued to say that this is not the last ban she'll be working to lift either, though she didn't offer further explanation. Now, on a related note, United States Democrats are still fighting rising cries of anti-Semitism within their party by not really acknowledging the anti-Semitism within the party. Legal expert and author Professor Alan Dershowitz recently wrote that while the mainstream party leaders still hold firm their support for Israel, they're refusing to call out the hate so as not to distance themselves from those voter bases. Joining me now with more is lecturer on public policy at Haifa University, Chezi Kugler. Chezi, welcome back to the studio. Thank you for joining us. All right, so, my first question is, what's your initial reaction, really, to all these accounts of rising anti-Semitism? Because the Democrats are basically saying, it's not really a big thing. It's all, maybe a witch hunt. What would you say to that?
Well, first of all, the last term that I think that we'll be making use of is a witch hunt. President Trump has a monopoly on that one.
Sure.
I really disagree with Professor Dershowitz. Rising anti-Semitism within the Democratic Party. There is not anti-Semitism within the Democratic Party. I agree that there may be a representative or a congressman or a congresswoman here or there who adheres to views that can be characterized perhaps as anti-Semitic. That does not make the Democratic Party anti-Semitic. It also doesn't mean that there is anti-Semitism rising within the Democratic Party. I'm not in the shoes of the leaders of the party, but by calling out an issue, such as Professor Dershowitz is advocating, I understand, you may really be turning a non-issue into an issue, making a mountain out of a molehill. For many, many years, there has been extremism on the right wing and on the left wing, within or around on the fringes of both of the parties. And for either one of the parties to say that those people on the fringes right now, we need to confront them, contend with them, it creates an issue which really did not really exist beforehand.
So that may be true, that maybe we're making a mountain out of a molehill, as you said, but what would you say to a lot of the accusations, and again, or maybe the reports of people in the Democratic Party refusing to condemn Louis Farrakhan and his comments?
Well, this has also been around for a real long time.
That's also been around for a long time, but that's kind of speaks to the issue, is that he's been around for a long time and nobody condemns him.
The guy exists. Whenever he has become an issue in presidential elections, including when Obama was running for election the first time, the true candidates...
He condemned Louis Farrakhan.
But he definitely took a very big step back. He definitely... changed the approach that he had beforehand.
But is that because it was politically relevant or because he acknowledged that Farrakhan's comments were outrageous?
Let's say that it was because it was politically correct or politically relevant. So fine. That just goes to show how important it is for the leaders of the party to realize that they cannot advocate or follow or associate themselves with views that can be interpreted or actually are anti-Semitic.
But you don't think that that's disingenuous? Because again, let's take Ilhan Omar, for example, who a few months ago, back in the summer, said, BDS is not expedient, it doesn't work, I'm against it, I'm pro two-state solution, and then as soon as she got elected, flips the script.
Well, again, she herself does not represent the views of the Democratic Party.
Of course, I'm just using her as an example.
Her views are not, okay, so as an example, therefore,
sure.
Those views are not part of the platform of the Democratic Party. Those views are not part of policy of the Democratic Party. Those views have never been part of policy of the party, both when they're in what we call the opposition, as well as being in power in the administration. The problem that we have today is that we have a Republican Party led by a president who has actually incorporated those sort of views into the mainstream of his leadership. He very clearly does exactly what you're talking about. He very clearly not only doesn't want to alienate his base, he views these people, his racist base, as being his core base of supporters. That's where the line gets very, very dangerous. No politician, not to speak of a president, has ever gone anywhere near as far as he has.
All right, well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have, but thank you so much for joining us.
Okay.
Hezi Kugler.
Pleasure.
All right, the Tel Aviv District Court today has finally ruled in the case of an Israeli-American teenage hacker who was convicted in June for causing widespread panic with bomb threats targeting Jewish community centers and similar targets across the globe. The now 20-year-old suspect, identified only as M in Israel, was sentenced to 10 years in prison, which is 3 years longer than what was requested. And it's to be counted from his arrest date in March of 2017. M was found guilty on hundreds of counts of extortion, publishing false information which caused a panic, money laundering, a multitude of international computer-related offenses, and much, much more. And in addition to his prison sentence, M was ordered to pay over $16,000 in fines, and in the United States, he's been indicted on charges of hate crimes. But while M is guilty of the crimes, the case isn't as clear-cut as it may appear. M suffers from autism and a brain tumor, which his family and defense teams have alleged affect his actions. But M was also deemed capable of understanding right from wrong, leading presiding Judge Tzvi Garfunkel to explain that while he acknowledged M's conditions, quote, it's impossible to ignore the severity of the defendant's actions, end quote. He added that under normal circumstances, if it had been a suspect without autism, the sentence would be 17 years. Between 2015 and 2017, M made thousands of bomb threats targeting Jewish community centers and schools in the United States, as well as airlines, hospitals, airports, malls, police stations, and more in the States and multiple other countries. He was also linked to a school email bomb threat service offered on the dark web. Yet still, the ruling is highly controversial and emotional, as embodied by M's father, who yelled, quote, "He has autism, he's sick," during the sentencing. Despite years of efforts and months working closely with the United States Justice Department, the Justice Department has this week refused the formal request of Prime Minister Netanyahu to allow Jonathan Pollard to serve the rest of his parole sentence in Israel. According to the report, the department cited Pollard's poor health and the severity of his crimes as reasoning. Pollard, who served 30 years in prison convicted of espionage, was released to his New York home in 2015, where he now lives under heavy regulation. Among the 5-year-long parole conditions is a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew where he must be home, he must wear a GPS ankle monitor at all times, and he cannot leave New York State. Additionally, he must remain in the United States until at least 2020 unless he gets permission from the president. But since long before his release, the Israeli Prime Minister has been trying to secure his return. Pollard was originally given Israeli citizenship in 1995, and Netanyahu's office reiterated that despite this latest failure, the Prime Minister is committed to bringing Pollard to Israel and will continue to work towards that goal. The debate over the culture loyalty bill is heating to a boil now as local Israeli artists continue to protest Culture Minister Miri Regev and her apparent attempts to stifle the arts. Most notably, attendees booed and shouted "No politics" during Regev's speech at the Israeli Artists Association's Lifetime Achievement Award ceremony in Petah Tikva on Tuesday. The recipient of the 2018 award, actor Yusuf Abu Warda, even walked out during her speech in protest as she explained that there is a limit to free expression.
וכן, חופש הביטוי כן, חופש האומנות כן, חופש ההסתה לא ולא.
But many in the arts, which in Israel are heavily reliant on government aid, still fear how the bill might be subjectively applied.
I am concerned that after the law will pass, my new play, Aide will be taking off stages. Of course, it can happen. But I will not. But if I will not perform it here, I will find other places to perform inside Israel and outside of the state. So I will not be silent. It will make short-term difficulties.
Even Culture Minister Miri Regev has admitted that she knows the advancement of the bill was an uphill battle.
אני נלחמתי עם היועמ"ש, נלחמתי עם המשנה ליועמ"ש, עשיתי את כל מה שצריך שהחוק הזה יגיע לכאן. עכשיו זה התפקיד של הכנסת. ואם הליכוד, הבית היהודי וכולנו לא יביאו את החוק הזה לידי סיום ביום שני הבא, זה כישלון של ממשלת הימין.
Just earlier this month, sculptor Itai Zalait put up a life-size model of Regev in the middle of Habima Square in Tel Aviv in mockery of some of her recent comments on the bill. And now the Israeli Democracy Institute has also released a short video featuring 9 famous Israeli actors in an audition room performing lines from popular Israeli films just for the director to edit their content. The video then culminates with the actors gathering to send a unified final message against the bill.
כל אחד מבין אומנות בצורה שונה.
וזה היופי שבה.
לתת לגורם פוליטי, שר תרבות,
משמאל או מימין,
לפרש מה זו הסתה, מה פוגע ביהדות, מה פוגע בדמוקרטיה.
זה קצת מגוחך.
ובטח לא רציני. אבל זה מה שהולך לקרות, אם יעבור חוק הנאמנות בתרבות.
וזה כבר לא מצחיק.
זה מפחיד.
In other news, passengers from last Thursday's hellish El Al Flight 002 are now demanding monetary compensation from the airline, along with an apology, claiming El Al lied to them, causing monetary damages and distress. Last Thursday, Flight 002 from New York to Tel Aviv was severely delayed due to a series of unfortunate events, causing major upset to religious passengers and the flight staff alike. Attorneys Tamar Falk and Amit Haddad, who represent the 180 religious plaintiffs, have already sent a letter to El Al, though, demanding a public statement that none of the passengers had been violent, as El Al previously claimed, and that the company promised to return the passengers' money in addition to damages amounting to 50,000 shekels per person. After Flight 002 was severely delayed by tardy flight crew and poor planning, religious passengers requested that they be allowed to deplane so as not to violate the Sabbath. To calm the passengers down, the pilot announced he would indeed go back to the gate, but then he took off, eventually landing in Athens in order to touch down as soon as possible. El Al explained initially that the issues arose when, quote, a group of Haredim requested to get off the plane and exercised heavy and violent pressure against the cabin crew, end quote, in seeking to disembark. But several videos posted later have surfaced and none demonstrated any violence from the passengers, only loud arguments with the cabin crew. The pilot on the flight then later claimed that a rabbi on board allowed the takeoff, but other passengers have since denied both the pilot's claim and the rabbi in question's authority. Israeli startup Up and Ride Robotics launched an innovative upright self-stabilizing wheelchair almost 2 years ago, and the system's only been getting better since then. The device allows quadriplegics to stand upright and can help tremendously both with issues of self-esteem and quality of life. Joining us now with more in the studio is CEO and founder of Up and Ride, Oren Tamari. Oren, it is a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, I remember we covered this a few years ago, when the news first broke about your company, and so I'm very excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit about, Up and Ride mobility devices.
The last more than a decade, we are working on developing technology for people who are confined to a wheelchair, people that cannot stand, cannot walk. And currently, we are introducing the Up and Ride, which is an upright mobility device that allows wheelchair users or anyone that cannot stand and walk full mobility, either indoors or outdoors, on slopes, going uphill, downhills, on uneven surfaces. So it's a matter of fact, it's a life-changing
Yeah,
solution.
I mean, I can tell that,
Yes.
I'm looking at some of these obstacles, and to somebody who's not used to, being immobile or immobilized or, mobility impaired, they probably look at this and say, oh, what a big deal, but it's probably enormous.
It makes their life normal again.
Wow, and I can see, it rises from a seated position to a standing position?
Yes, exactly. Basically it's a wheelchair. You go into the device like any other power wheelchair, and then by pressing a button, you just stand up and start to be mobile. So you go wherever you want. You go with your family outside. You go in the street. You're stand up.
So that was my next question then. How, let's say a quadriplegic, someone who's really lacks mobility, how can they control the device? How do they steer it? Okay.
Usually, most of the wheelchair users, even if they are quadriplegics, they have some residual, motor functions in their hands. If not, there are other solutions. It can be through the head, or there are different solutions off the shelf. We don't have to develop anything; just implement it.
That's amazing. All right, where can we try it out? If people are interested in trying this out for themselves, or maybe looking for more details in purchasing one.
Yeah, we are located in Yokneam, so anyone that is in a wheelchair and wants to try the device, they can come to our company. As a matter of fact, the last couple of months, there were 16 wheelchair users that came to try the device. There were paraplegic, quadriplegic, MS, CP, ALS, brain injury, all kind of people that are confined to a wheelchair. They can come and try it and enjoy the freedom of being upright.
Yeah, no, I understand you actually even helped a groom stand up at his wedding recently.
Yes,
so
just 10 days ago.
So I'm hearing incredible things, and I hope to hear a lot more. Oren, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, just a day before his 89th birthday, Holocaust survivor and Olympian Sir Ben Helfgott was knighted at Buckingham Palace by Prince Charles. The former champion weightlifter and Holocaust education advocate was rewarded for his lifelong, quote, determination, dedication, and unparalleled perseverance, end quote, in services to Holocaust remembrance and education. And Karen Pollard, the chief executive of the Holocaust Educational Trust, said that this honor was marvelous news and so deserved. She said Ben, quote, helped shape Holocaust education in the UK and campaigned both for a memorial in London and for a national day to remember the Holocaust, end quote, among other things. After surviving 3 different Nazi death camps, Buchenwald, Schlieben, and Theresienstadt, Sir Ben dedicated the rest of his life to making sure that his suffering would not be repeated. In addition to helping establish the National Holocaust Memorial Day, he was a member in the Prime Minister's Holocaust Commission, and he also spent over 50 years serving as chairman of the 45 Aide Society for Holocaust Survivors, eventually also serving as its president. And despite his age and accomplishments, it sounds like he won't ever stop. He's previously said that he's worked all his life to, quote, educate about the Holocaust and will continue to do so, end quote. So you may or may not be aware, but today is Thanksgiving, which means tomorrow is Black Friday, essentially the biggest and craziest shopping day of the season, where retailers in storefronts and online offer massive discounts. And ALTV's Doriel Mizrahi is here with the details.
Yes, get excited, Aaron, because Black Friday is finally back in Israel, meaning huge sales on everything from clothes, electronics, and everything in between. And every chain store here is already sending out text messages and posting signs outside their store that there's a huge Black Friday sale. So I'm really excited. I almost feel like I'm back in the States.
All right, so I'm actually glad that you brought this back up, because I know Black Friday isn't really new in Israel. But it seems like this is the first year that it's become normal.
Yeah.
I just hope that, the lines and the rush that you see in the stores in the United States doesn't make its way here too.
Okay, well, thankfully, even though the deals are really great in most places, the craziness you just described is definitely not a thing. It's actually really calm, which is nice. And honestly, I think the way Israelis shop has a lot to do with it. We mostly make purchases online anyway, and every Israeli website you visit now has a Black Friday sale going on. Even Cal, who is a huge credit card company here in Israel, is having an hourly cashback contest. Whoever buys online with their Cal card can participate, and there are 24 hours in a day, so there are 24 quizzes, and all you have to do is answer the most questions in the quiz correctly, and first, of course, and you can win up to $1,000 back.
Very cool. All right, well, I know I have a lot of stores to check out now, especially clothing.
Yeah.
I need new pants. I'm feeling crazy. So thanks for the update, Delia.
Good luck with that. And thanks for having me, and I'll see you next time.
And now let's turn to ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh for this week's Top 5.
So if you haven't been able to tell by now, my favorite topic to talk about is food. And Israel has one of the best culinary scenes in the world. We've told you about the upscale restaurants, best cafes, best breakfast spots, and now I'm here to give you guys ILTV's Top 5 list of the best street food in Tel Aviv. First on the list is Miznon, and just to prove how amazing this spot is, they even opened a branch in Chelsea Market in New York City. Miznon can be described best as gourmet fast food opened up by famous Israeli chef Eyal Shani. This is the spot to be for a good steak and egg in a pita or a whole cauliflower that will literally melt in your mouth. But you can't forget about the atmosphere, which makes the whole place what it is. Prepare to get a little messy because the food is too delicious to be careful. Second up is Arepas, located in Tel Aviv's Shuka Carmel or the Carmel Market, and is run by Venezuelans who bring a little taste of home to the streets of Tel Aviv. An arepa is similar to a pancake from corn flour and can be filled with cheese, meat, guac, and beans. This stand serves quick, delicious food at an amazing price, and you'll honestly never taste anything like it. Third on the list is the newest shop called Nu Dirty Dining. And let me tell you, dirty dining is an understatement at this spot. Chef Guy Gamzo's latest spot offers everything you'd ever dream of in a delicious bun, ranging from mac and cheese to a bun with barbecue chicken and everything in between. It's the latest craze in Tel Aviv, so you don't want to miss out. Fourth up is Eat Meat, which offers an Argentinian-inspired sandwich with a freshly baked bun filled with out-of-this-world shredded entrecôte and delicious sauces. Or, if you're trying to watch the carbs, they offer everything that's in the sandwich on a bed of lettuce. I'm making myself hungry just thinking about it. Last but never least is Pitos, bringing Greek street food to the heart of Tel Aviv, offering the best Greek flavors in pita, ranging from gyros, grilled kebabs, all the way to vegan zucchini balls. So if you're looking for a mixed Israeli-Greek experience, make sure to check out Pitos real quick. That's all for today's Top 5. Back to you.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. In advance of Black Friday tomorrow, our Hebrew word is kniyot, which translates to shopping. Shopping, or kniyot, is done on the web from street vendors, malls, and more. And as you probably already know, Black Friday is a huge day to get your big kniyot or purchases taken care of. Just be careful of some of these stores tomorrow. No sale or kniya is worth getting hurt. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight you can expect isolated storms and a cool low of about 60 or 16 degrees Celsius. And then this weekend, we'll see some heavy thunderstorms again, along with a drop in temperatures to a low of around 58 or 14 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.74 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you for watching.